In this tutorial, what we're gonna do next is to show in here the list of products corresponding to this purchase, but we want to show the list in this side and we want to show a form in this other, in the right sides, that will be used for saving and for add new records. So it will be a unique form that can be used for both. So how can we do that? So first let's create our interface structure. So in here, let's go back in here to the Bootstrap components. Let's go to the grid and let's select the 8-4 grid in here. Okay, and now let's drag and drop our product purchase in here, where what we want to do, we want this list to be only view lists. We could do the edit or we could do the view. Let's just do the view because it's just simply more complicated, so you can have the full overview of this journey. Okay, so currently he created already, so we don't want to search, we don't want to sort actions, so we can simply go here and select these options here. Okay. Oh, we had the view, but we can always add the remove also, so we could remove the fields from here. So we can put the remove from here. Okay, so we can simply save it. Don't forget to filter the resource, the load resource, according with the purchase that is coming from the URL. The same thing that we did in the previous tutorial. So in here we need to call it purchase ID, and in here we need to call the variable from URL. It should be purchase ID also. So if we save this and if we refresh, we can see that currently we already have here the two fields and we have the delete buttons. Okay. Now we want to add a form here to edit specific fields. So what we're gonna do in here, we will drag and drop. This is the product purchase, and we want to add a form in here to edit, and we're gonna do the proceeds. So automatically the system creates all the corresponding logic for us. It's done. Let's save. And we want to refresh. Now we are having an error because this form is waiting for the product purchase ID in here, and it doesn't have, it only has the purchase ID. So we need to change now this form so it can be used for these guys here and for the add button. So we need then to add the add button that will interact with this form here. So let's go to this form here and let's add a bunch of configurations. So first of all, this cannot be load on page load. This needs to load when the parent loads an item. So if just by doing this, if we save this and if we refresh, we don't have the warning anymore because not loading this anymore. Additionally, we don't want to have the product purchase ID, and the purchase ID needs to be a hidden field with this value here. So we can simply go here to the responsive layout. We can increase these layouts to big layouts, so we can then edit this better. Okay, which is fine. Okay, so this one we can simply erase, and this one, which is the purchase ID, we can simply delete it and we'll add a new field in the form. So inside of here. So I want to add a text box in here that basically in the dynamic resource will have the display resource attributes will be the purchase ID, and that will have the default value, choose variable from URL, the purchase ID. So this is important. Why? Because when we are adding a new product, this will take place. When we are editing an existing product, this will not be used and will be replaced by the corresponding purchase ID that is coming from the list, which will be the same. Basically, this will be exactly the same value. But the logic, I'm just explaining you to the logic so you can understand. Then we can hide this field. Okay, done, perfect. And let's see what we currently have. Okay, perfect. Now we can simply remove these things here also. So we want this. So we want this, okay. And now these fields here, I want this to be loaded. Instead of when parent shows it, I want this to be loaded on page load. And the same thing here. On page load. Okay, and we just save. So when I refresh this, I already have this loaded here. Of course that I could put here some label saying add form, whatever. I didn't do it, but I could have put it here. Some label. This could be, I don't know, like some, I don't know if this class exists or not, but this is just an example, but okay. But I could put the text start, and in here I could put manage products, edit product, manage products, add / edit, whatever. It's just an example. So I like to use classes, so I'm using Bootstrap classes, but you have always here the styling that you can use instead. I did the alignment and the color through classes, but you can always come here and you can always change this if you'd like to. So decorations, these are the borders, so we have the backgrounds and we have the text color in here. So if I want this to be red, I could always put these reds if I want to. I just needed then to remove this guy here. It's just an example. Okay. I could put some spacing, whatever, maybe center this, maybe put this inside of here. That makes more sense. Maybe in here. Then this is only UI that you can always use. Okay, I could put some margin or some padding, whatever. Okay, it's a little bit better. Okay, now what we want to do is we need to change this to datetime local also. Datetime local. And now what we want to do is we will remove the buttons here because we have the remove buttons in here, so we can simply remove this guy here, and the save button will still have, will continue to have the save button, but the save button we need to change the event of the save button. So as you can see, now we have here, we can choose here the date, and in here we have this, we don't have the delete button anymore. Okay, now we need to, if we click here, this gives an error. Well, of course we need first to select all these guys here, blah blah blah, but still to give an error because it's trying to find a product that already exists in here. So what we need to do is we need to, well, first of all, let's add the edit button here so we can change the records here, so then we can save the records here, and then add the add button in here so we can change this form to be ready to be called as an add new element form. So to do that, let's scroll here to the left and let's show in here this field. So what we want to do in here, we can simply copy this button, so then we can paste, and then we can change this, change all of this, and in here I just add some height, and in here what I want this to be added, I want this to be this instead of being this icon. I want this to be a pencil, and I want to change the color instead of big danger. I want this to be primary to be blue. And now instead in the in the events, I don't want this to call the remove resource item. I want to do something else, which is in the item lists, in the item icon, I want to scroll down and I want to call the open item dependent widgets. So basically this will get the corresponding primary keys of the row, the corresponding row, and it will load the dependent widgets with that specific values. So I want to call this event here, and then in here in the dependent widgets I want to add a dependence here, which will be that specific form that currently we don't have any ID for the form, but we can add. So in here in this form we need to create a now we have here widget form 2. Okay, so we can simply go here dependencies and call it a widget form 2. Let's refresh, and now it's here widget form 2. Okay, and we can simply save for now, and let's test. So as you can see, it is working. So if I change this to 3 and if I save, it is saving correct, but it's not updating here. So if I refresh now, it's updated. So what we need to do next is every time that I do some save in here, I want to update this list in here. So how can we do that? So we need to go to this form here, and we need to set some dependencies which will be this specific list. So let's see if we have an ID here for the specific, yeah, is widget list 1. Okay, so in the form, so we set a new dependence which will be widget list 1. Okay, and additionally we want a caption also, and additionally we want a button, widget button, because all of these 3 belongs to this list. So we can save, and now when we refresh, when I edit something here, if I make this 2, when I save, I can see that automatically it updates the caption. So to items, it updates the corresponding values of the list, and if there will be pagination, it will update the corresponding pagination also. Okay, so this is done. So this is done for the edit form. Now we want to add a new button here, add, to make this form here as a add form. So we can just copy this element here, select this one here, paste the new element here. In here we just put ads. We change the correspondent icon. Plus we change, wait, I just set the height. We can change here the color. Success, okay. And now when I click here, I want to change the event. I don't want this to be the same event that was before. I don't want this to be open dependent widget. So in this case what we want is to go to the short actions, and what we want to do is reset the form and convert it into add forms. So basically I need to reset the form and to delete this specific attribute. This attribute, that's what it says, that where are the primary keys of that specific element that we are editing. So we need to choose this one here, and then we need to add the dependents. Which will be the widget form tool. Okay, since we copied it, it's already here. Okay. So when I refresh this, if I do add, I have this. If I do add, I have this. Now let's check if it is replacing the correct fields. So if I change this, it change. Okay, if I do the add, let's put a beer here. One. Okay. Now it's missing something in this form here. So basically, every time that we click here save, now we need to change the event here, because why is that? So this save button, what is calling this function here, update resource item, and the update resource item, basically it loads the update resource from the form. So what we want to change here, we want to call this the save resource. So by default, basically it will check if this value exists here. So when we have the add form, this attribute doesn't exist. When we have the edit form, this attribute exists. So if this attribute exists, he will call the update resource of the form. Otherwise it will call the add resource of the form. So this is the event that we want to call. Additionally, then we need to go to the form, because in the form we only have the load resource and the update resource defined. We don't have the add resource defined, so we need to have the add resource defined. So since we don't have in here any product purchase, any resource to do that, let me refresh this. Okay, now we have everyone. Okay, yeah, we only have the update, we don't have the add. So let's create one here to add the correspondent resource. So these are the existing ones, so we don't have any the add. So let's create one here. So let's select our product purchase, and what we want to do, we want to insert to add a record, and we want to update, and automatically it creates the correspondence resource in here. So when we save and when we refresh the page, okay, so the edit works fine. When I do the ads, is not working fine. Okay, the reason why when I refresh and I cannot save, the reason why this is giving this is because of the hidden field that we put it here. So in the form, so this text box here, this needs to be allow null. We remove this allow null, needs to be allow null, this. So we need to do something else. So in this form, it's here. That's the problem. The problem is this guy here. So we need to remove this, the default values. Now if we save, it should work already. Okay, here it is. Okay, so you can simply remove these guys. So if we add it, it saves correctly. When we click add, it adds correctly, so as you can see. And we can add another one. Okay, so it is fine. When we refresh the page, this is still working, the same thing. So let's leave it 0. As you can see, it is making all these elements are correct. Okay, so basically this is done. Obviously that's when I'm adding a new object, maybe in here when I save, maybe it should reset the form. So one of the things that we can do is on the form, on the insert, on the ads form in here, on success, maybe I can just reset the form. So I add one element here, I save, it adds and automatically it resets. Additionally, I could put here a message, a success message saying product added. Product added. Okay, and it resets the form. Okay, perfect. So this is correct. Okay. So let's check when I go back to the purchases. If I see this one, I don't see any. If I see the first one, I see one. So it is correct. So this is another way of doing the things. Obviously that in here I could have like a link saying go back to purchases, which is basically just clicking here, which is fine. Okay, so basically this is done. So we did the products, we did the purchases, we have the categories, the client, the suppliers. We should do the sales. We could do the same way, or simply we could do something else, which is we can leave the sales in here and we can add another button here to forward to another page where we can edit the correspondent product sales. That's what we're gonna do in the next tutorial.